everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Strength Hammer podcast. I'm your humble host, Chuck, and with me today we got Neil and Matt.
Neil.
Say hi, guys.
Hi, Internet.
How are you guys doing? What's been going on? What's good out there?
Doing good. Just running my hobby campaign right now, which has been a lot of work. Losing friends and making enemies.
Yeah,
it's gone well.
You're only on this podcast because we need you, not because we want you anymore.
Yeah, and for me, last week, in said hobby competition, I ended up rolling out, 8 or 9 games in 1 week? I'm a little deflated at this point.
It's quite a number of games. It's good, but yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's just dive right in on our hobby table and fitness check-in. Neil, what have you been hobbying? How's your fitness been going?
Hobby table has been a lot of Karajan Overlord still. With this map campaign thing that we're doing, it's based on.
And what are you doing the map campaign for?
Map campaign is it's our club campaign, and it's done based on hobby essentially. So hobby being games. It's
what club is it?
Renfor.
There you go. That's what I was trying to get out of you.
And so basically what it is you can either paint things or you can play things, attending events. It all scores your points. And the teams are 4 people on a team. And so you accumulate these points by playing games and painting stuff. And so what I've been doing is working on getting all my endless spells done. Each unit's worth a certain amount of points. And the spells, Karajan Overlords, just finished a frigate, where I think I did roughly 2 million rivets. I think we're on that thing. That's probably undershooting it by about 1 million.
How long
you completed the centerpiece?
Let's see. I've been working on it for the last 2 weeks, so I couldn't tell you in hours though.
Mine took me, because I was actually keeping track of it. Mine took me about just under 50 hours of actual paint time.
Yeah, no, I don't think I took that long on it, but
well, I'm a slow painter.
We're doing a lot of hobby Skype sessions, so that certainly helps the time go by. So probably 2.5, 3 hours a clip for us hobby Skype, but. So doing that, playing games as well. We did yesterday we did a get together at my house where I've got a table at my house, and so we had a paint table set up. So people were painting, people were playing games. We started at 12, we stopped at 10 p.m. So,
jeez,
it was a nice full day of gaming. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of alcohol drank as well.
How big is your Karajan army now? How many points do you have?
Well, I can easily make 2,000, and then over top of that, I'd probably say somewhere in the realm of 2,500, but we'll be going well more than that.
Wow.
So,
there you go.
Not painted yet. It will be, but not just yet.
I gotcha.
Having one ironclad tends to scoot the points up pretty good.
Yeah, bump it up there. But I know you sent us in our group chat for the podcast picture of you in a rowing machine.
That's right.
Back to the gym.
I finally got my butt back to the gym. So we're doing that. We're trying to work a little cardio. And for those who know me, I have a little bad rotator cuff from falling down the stairs a year ago and reaching up and grabbing a rail and taking 200 pounds onto my shoulder. That wasn't good. So that gets a little cranky every once in a while. So I've been working some shoulder exercises, and they've been helping.
They do that in the movies all the time. You'll be
fine. Isn't your montage over? Aren't you fully healed and ready?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Stallone hanging off a cliff. It's fine. No rotator cuff damage at all.
Nah, you're all good.
I'll tell you, Neil, what you need to do is you need to ramp up your whenever you talk about this, the map campaign. You just need to jump it up to unsubstantiated claims with the largest map-based campaign in the northeast of the United States. Who's going to prove you wrong?
How many people we got? Let's see. We have 44 people playing in it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
And that's
had 44. We've lost some this week. They've been destroyed.
So don't forget that I've rightfully and without argument claimed Northeast Ohio as part of the Northeast as a whole. Like we've saved you from the Midwest. You're free.
Yeah. Well, that is good. That is good.
Yeah. So you can officially have Yingling over there now.
That's it. Yeah. And then we don't have to compete with those guys in Detroit, you know. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, they got to compete with Pittsburgh. So, but instead of the Northeast coming and taking your trophies, it's the Northeast will come fight Michigan.
Oh, I just never assume we're ever getting any trophy ever, so it's fine. I just give away trophies. We don't get them.
There you go. Matt, what about you? What's been on your hobby table? How's your fitness going? Any weight loss progression?
I don't even know. The last week or two, there hasn't even been a scale in my day to day. It's been basically 9-hour days, 9.5-hour days, and then coming home and playing Warhammer for 6 hours or so.
I don't know. Are you happy or are you not? I can't tell.
I don't know.
It's 50-50.
That emotion doesn't exist on this schedule. That's.
It was meant to increase the hobby, and I've just shattered it. I've shattered it for all of you.
It's basically like being in a bath that is just like your exact body temperature. It doesn't. There's no feelings left.
Oh man!
And I'd also like to point out that we did end up losing to a very honorable.
For
Yeah.
the audience, I'm on Matt's team, and when Matt put together the team of myself, our friend Alex, and then our other friend Brad, we're all local together, I decided to just call him Glorious Leader and post gifs of Putin and make him do all the work, and he took it on. But yeah, so that's why he's so stressed out. I'm relaxed because I just do what I'm told.
Well, the Glorious Leader part comes from our team name, which is House. Oh, I forget how it's pronounced.
Aptica, I believe.
No. It's Drutska or something like that. It's the Russian word for friendship.
Yes.
But I wanted to go with the Russian characters to make Neil try and have to incorporate them into everything that he writes. So.
And he has been. He has been.
Yeah, like a little copy paste action. Yeah.
There's one place where I think there's a 4 instead of that weird Russian A thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Anything besides just non-stop games? Did you get any paint to a model?
No. How would I get that in there?
I figured I'd give you the platform in case you did. I don't know.
I mean, I'll go get some contrast paints and start dipping something if you want.
No. Well, for myself, my hobby, I have successfully finished my Slaanesh army. I finished the tufts of grass on tonight. I had to have a black crackle base going on with my Slaanesh army with a purple underlayer. And I know, Matt, you've kind of seen it. It's really not showing up well in pictures. In person, you can see it. But I added tufts of grass that I painted with the same purple as a dry brush and just sprinkled it across the army. So it's successfully and 100% officially done. Now I just have to build a display board, which I didn't save any great tufts of grass for that. So we'll have to wing that.
What do you think you're going to do for your display board?
Well, I have 3 chariots because of your generosity, and my mental state barely survived them.
So you're going to have a board that plays some Initial D music for all that drifting. Huh?
Actually, I'm thinking of having like one side be like a like was it concave, like almost like a dish, and they're going to be drifting around it, and then everything else be down the side, like cheering. Like I'm going to play with it. I want the chariots to be kind of a focus because my leader Hakati the Perverse is a herald on Exalted Secret Chariot, so definitely want her front and center.
Maybe what you could do is you get like a little bandstand, and you could buy all the Blood Bowl cheerleaders and put them up in the stands.
No, I mean I like the idea of actually that sort of design, maybe like an amphitheater, kind of like a Ben-Hur type thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll put the Daemonettes up there instead of buying more models to paint because I don't know if I have it in me to replicate this ivory skin on anything else.
Man, that's where you can get like that topless orc that's super creepy and keeps me awake at night.
What?
You haven't seen that?
No, no.
Yeah, there's
I don't.
literally so there's it's an older model, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's for Blood. I think it was like the last real full iteration of Blood Bowl. They came out with an orc cheerleader that has like essentially tube socks for tatas and is like flying all over the place.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, well, instead of that, I will build my display board and get back to painting my Daughters of Cain because I have more Daughters of Cain on my desk now. So I'm gonna do that instead. So sorry, Matt.
Sounds like more
But yeah,
fun.
I'm really excited to have the army done. Gonna try and get some pictures tonight before I head to bed, so I can post stuff up on Twitter and Instagram and maybe even a blog post for it because I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's very clean. I think I definitely punched above my weight class on painting. Until I look at other people's like painted armies and I go, okay, I'm average now. That's great.
Well, yeah, that was how I was with my Fire Slayers. I was like, oh my god, these guys look so cool. Then I went to, I forget where it was, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go home and burn my brushes.
But yeah, like I said, back to Daughters of Cain soon. Get some reps in for Adepticon, and yeah, excited to take the army out there. I am on the wait list, but by the way the track record has shown, if you're on the wait list and you show up the day of, you'll probably get into the GT. So
What,
we'll,
Akon?
yeah, at Acon.
I thought you didn't you sign up like the second it went live?
No, actually, so a couple of our club members that I'm on the team with, they grabbed that ticket. I was actually out in Utah
Oh
hiking the
yeah.
Delicate Arch when it went live, and I could have stopped to figure it out, but I was just like, nah, I'm gonna enjoy this moment and worry about Adepticon later.
Yeah, I was at PAX Unplugged. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sadly, you guys aren't gonna join me at Acon this year, but I do understand with money and time and everything going on.
Well, don't worry. Someday they'll get that Hyperloop put out. It'll be a 45-minute journey or whatever the heck it's going to be.
Oh yeah, we'll be over there. We get games in nonstop.
We're missing out on
as far as
Adepticon this year. I'm hopefully just going to do more local stuff for a little while here too until the summer. So that might open up a little opportunity there.
What's that? Are we getting Ren 4 up to 4 annual tournaments? Is that what you just said?
No.
Oh,
No.
You said more local tournaments.
No, the other people's.
other people's. So do I have to run one now?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I've been needing a reason to get up to Ligonier anyway, so.
Well, I mean, if you can make it out on the 29th this month, then we're gonna be practicing for Adepticon. Be a good time. I got some of the Pittsburgh guys coming out too, so
It's a Saturday
We'll
or
see.
Sunday.
Saturday.
No.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm sure the people listening to the podcast are loving us making our Warhammer date plans. But as far as I guess my fitness goes, I'm still training for a CrossFit competition that I haven't decided on which one I'm going to yet because they usually don't come out till spring, so we haven't seen them yet. But I am so close to getting my first unassisted muscle up. I can do them with a spot from my coach. So it's definitely a mental thing for me now. But yeah, that's my biggest fitness thing is I can almost do a muscle up.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm
Which one?
pretty happy
What's
with that. That's where you have the pull-up bar,
Mhm.
and as you pull yourself up almost to like your hips, and then you go over the bar and you push yourself up. So you're literally like
Like
a
60-pound female gymnasts make it look like it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's not.
yeah. All those calisthenic people that weigh like 110 pounds, and I'm sitting here like 205 pounds. I'm just like, well, I can deadlift 405 and almost do this. I'll take that for now. But, yeah, and I guess after that, we should probably get on to our main topic, which we haven't told anyone listening what the topic is. Matt, what's our topic tonight?
Narrative. It's all about it. How you incorporate it into your army, how you incorporate it into your games, how you set up your own. We're gonna go from the basement to the rafters.
I'm a little disappointed right now, Matt.
What?
I just softballed you the chance to say anything outlandish or wild that your heart could think of, and you actually gave the real response. You
I
are
mean,
tired, I can tell.
do you want we can hookers and blow? We can do that.
You open the door.
Yep. All right,
I'm
let's
gonna-
slam that door back. Close it. All right. Scary in here.
The strength
Mom, come
hammer.
get me
Strength
upstairs.
hammer is be on your best behavior. If I ever start no, that's dumb. Then all the bars will be released. That's
Well, next time when you're fresh, and we'll I'm sure we'll get a better response from you. But yeah, as Matt said, I'm just gonna talk narrative. If you've been listening to anything else out there in the content world, I've been doing tons of narrative chats lately, and figured we might as well do it here too, as one of our topics. And it's a nice, easy one, nice, relaxing, easy conversation. I think for all three of us to have because we all do narrative in our own way. To start with,
some better and on a bigger scale than others, but that's I don't want to
well,
brag.
just because you have these custom narrative heroes at two of the top three conventions in the United States.
No, what you're supposed to say is 100% of all large-scale narrative events that have custom war scrolls, I made them. But I don't want to brag.
We'll have to try and convince Paul, who runs the narrative at Adepticon, to incorporate them to literally get you at every single one. I think we can do that. But
I'll send you a portfolio that you can take with you and do a little presentation.
give me some 8.5 by 11 glosses of your face too.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
I'll sell it. I'll sell it hard. But narrative into your army. As anyone knows, like I said, if you listen to any of the chats that I was on, like Rantcast was the recent one, which is a great show. Go check them out. You can really do narrative despite what you want to play. If you want to be competitive, you can still have a story to your army. If you want to play in a narrative event, obviously you're going to have a narrative theme, open play. But narrative, I think, never takes away from anything you want to do. It just enhances whatever you're doing. That's how I've always treated it. Definitely enjoy it much more in the Age of Sigmar because I think there's a lot more creativity and a lot more room for us to grow as opposed to 8th edition, where you had the named heroes, you had Tyrion, you had Teclis, and they kind of took center stage to like your sub character who might have a name and probably not your general, because why would you make him your general? But Neil, how do you bring narrative to your army?
So,
Or how do you do narrative in Age of Sigmar? I guess let's not just limit it to the army.
Well, I'll start off with the army that I'm working on currently. I'm not very good with conversions. I mean, I can do your odd head swap. I can play around with some bits and stuff like that, but it's never anything that looks great. So I don't try to do too many conversions to get like a custom character or anything like that. But what my current army does have is it has a little bit. It has a story to it. So I've got the pinup girls on the boats and everything, and so there's a story that goes along with they're going to different these guys stop in the different cities, free cities in the realms, and they go to some bars or whatever you want to call it, and there's some ladies there that they get to liking, right? And so they decide to put these ladies on their boat. They name the boat after them and everything else. And so that's kind of the narrative of my army. And I also plan to write out a little sheet, and there's going to be a little story that goes with each boat as well. So I'll have a little, it'll be the named boat and, how it got its name and why it has its name and how many kills it's got. And so if it ever kills a general or something like that, we're going to note that down. And we're just going to kind of keep track of that kind of stuff. I don't know that that's going to happen very often, so it might not be a lot of work.
Yeah, I just really hope you get like a nice leather bound journal and it like you open it up and it just says captain's log and you just go full into it.
Oh yeah,
like you even have
that's
like
actually a
this is
great
this is the beer I was drinking whenever we shot down the great
That's a great
bloodthirster
idea,
of
you
this
should
army.
you should look up some World War II flight logs and try and do it in that format.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah. That sounds great. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
so
mean,
that's kind of the way I'm doing narrative with the army. Go ahead, Chuck.
I would say let's not forget the wonderful tables you create too for your events over at the Ren 4 Club for all the games. Like they're all themed after the realm. Like go talk more about that because you have floating islands. You do crazy stuff and it's great.
Yeah, so the Ren 4 event was kind of I really like incorporating um, all the realms into the games. And one thing I understand the reason for it 100%, and I know why it has to happen this way. Because when you're running a big tournament like Adepticon or Nova, whatever, you don't have the opportunity to theme 100 plus tables for each realm, right? And then also, if you're trying to make it very closely matched play, you can't have a different realm, people playing in different realms in the same game, so to speak, in a tournament. But because I've kept our tournament small, we go like 30, we might be pushing 40 here in towards the summer. I have been able to do that. So we'll do
Make it
multiple
50.
tables.
Make it 50.
That gets into a little space in our venue.
Yeah.
But it's a possibility. But that's a lot of work. But yeah, so what we do is currently we have, I think the most we've run is 16 tables so far, and each one of those tables is a realm. There's duplicates of every single realm except for a couple, maybe, depending on how many people we had.
Doubles for every table, except for the ones that don't have doubles.
So we have mats down on the boards, and these mats I've carefully selected to kind of look like, okay, this could be the Realm of Fire, and then I'll write a little narrative on the table card. So instead of it just saying table 2, it says table 2, and then it has a narrative right down there, real quick, a couple paragraphs about the table, where the table's set in, and we're playing match play for these tournaments, right? It's 2,000 points, it's match play, it's bring your hardest list, but there's an element of narrative in it. I enjoy randomness in a tournament. So the terrain on the tables is matching the mats, and then the terrain is themed for the mats. So if I've got a bunch of volcanoes, then every single piece of terrain in that tournament on that table is going to be volcanic. So good luck. In the realm of beasts, every piece of terrain is deadly because it wants to eat you. So it's still match play, it's still 2,000 points. It's still, your traditional tournament, but there are just elements. I like to put elements of narrative in it so that you feel more immersed into the table that you're playing. I want you to feel like you are playing in the realm of life instead of, I don't know, being on a grass table and we are in the realm of, looks like a jungle. We're in the realm of death. I have a hard time buying that when I'm playing. It doesn't really give me the immersion I'm looking in for. But I also understand reasons for it in other tournaments. But that's just it's the tournament that I wanted to play in, so it's the tournament that I've put together for other people. So far so good. Some good response to it. I think some people know that it's not. The terrain isn't always set up where it's equal on equal sides. There's going to be some randomness to it, and if you like that kind of thing, then that tournament's for you. So.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job marrying the idea of narrative into a match play tournament. I mean, obviously, it's not like the typical Adepticon Nova LVO where you just want to have the same exact, copy and paste table no matter who you're playing. Like there's a variability, but I mean, you still you get the Detroit fellas coming out. You get the Pittsburgh, like Bill Souza and Roger, and then TJ Lanigan coming out and they're top level competitive players, and they come out and they enjoy it and they bring their lists. They have fun, and it's the expectation's set. But I think you just did a really good job marrying the two concepts into an event. I've always had fun when I go out to play, and I'm always like, I want to play on this table because I brought this army.
I've always looked at the Holy Wars tournaments, Holy Wars, Holy Havoc, and just the tables that Steve Herner puts out are just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of where I take my inspiration for some of the terrain I build. I don't build half as good, but a quarter is good. Well, but that's where the inspiration comes from. So
let's say with Matt and I have gone out there. The one thing I can say about Steve's table, and they are immaculate. They're amazing. They're also built to survive the end of the world. Like those are the toughest tables. They can take any abuse. Whatever he does, like he creates amazing tables, and you could kill somebody with it, and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
yeah. Now, so if you ever plan to do more tables, so you can get up to that magic 50 number, maybe that's one thing you should do. Is you should look at how do you do a jungle in Haish, or Shaiish, like do the opposite. What does I guess there's no realm of ice, but
Well,
what does the polar caps look like in the realm of fire?
That's a really good
whenever I
thing to bring up, because that does exist in every realm. Every biome does exist. You might see something specific; it's always going to be themed, but every biome does exist. And now that you're saying that, like ooh, I want to see a Shyish jungle.
Yeah.
That'd be tough. When I see like ice maps and stuff like that, to me that screams Realm of Light, right? Because if you ever walked out in Ohio or in Pennsylvania in the middle of the winter after a big snowfall on a sunny day, you just want to go blind. So that would make sense to me. I'd have a hard time with the jungle in Shyish, but I'm sure it could be pulled off. Might take somebody with a little more imagination than me. That's probably where Matt comes in.
Yeah. But I mean, let's start over to you for a little bit, Matt. I mean, first of all, talk to us about the custom characters you made, and then dive into how you bring narrative to Age of Sigmar personally.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, I guess it was 2 years ago now. Not this past year, but the year before. The Nova Narrative guys were trying to come up with something a little bit new and original for the Warhammer, or for the Champion War Scrolls, as that is typically something that's pretty popular nowadays with narrative events. And they wanted me to help, and then after I agreed to help them is whenever I agreed to help you.
Actually, yeah, before you dive too far into it, explain what a champion for a narrative event typically is for anyone who maybe has never been to a narrative event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. So as far as that goes, the champion is it's for the specific event. There's typically not a model for it. You have to bring your own. You have to carve a narrative to match the narrative of the champion. And it's essentially kind of a twofold thing. One, it helps balance out lists. It helps overcome narrative hurdles, because sometimes a narrative can kind of put you behind an 8-ball, which is typically the point of that particular narrative scenario. But you're also still supposed to have fun. And then on top of that, it's also kind of a connection between the event you're running and the army you're bringing. Most of the time people do bring champions that align with their army, but I know at not only at Nova, but at like the events that I've used those War Scrolls in, people will bring something closer aligned to the event, to be like, this is almost like their guide. And then as far as the heroes go, like, or the champions go, so this is an excellent place to really flex your narrative muscle, because it doesn't exist in the rules right now, and hopefully it doesn't. I would actually prefer not to see GW incorporate something like this, because then
like the champions,
right? And the only reason why I say that is not because I don't trust them to do it or do a great job with it. It's as soon as they do it, that's going to be the way to do it. And you're going to see a lot more places bend towards that. So, like, say for the holy events, you pick one of several different heroes that all. Or I guess you start the same, right?
I believe we all start the same, and then you develop the archetype you want to be. Like for the latest Holy Havoc that we went to, I went all priest because I play Kane and I wanted to keep priest heavy.
Right, and I took the old school, what's his name? I'm blanking on it now. The named dwarf warden, Warden King.
High King Thorgrim.
Yeah, so I took Thorgrim, and I put him onto my gun hauler. So I put my hero into movement and to shooting, and so like that's one way to do it. Other people do a point buy, where you get so many points to start off at the beginning. Then like one of the ways that I tried to be as creative as I could. So what I did is I ended up coming up with 14 completely, well, not completely unique, but unique from each other war scrolls, and they all had like a set balance, or not a set balance. Well, they were set balance, but they all had like a set theme. So I started off with the basics of like, here's the tanky guy, here's the melee guy, here's the wizard, and then I did my own thing with them. And then to have them evolve along with the event, each one of them had their own unique goal to kind of gain experience. And then as they gained experience, they got additional levels. So the best example for that is I had one called the Meek Escorted, which is kind of to mirror sort of like that Bilbo or Rastlin, if you're familiar with Dragonlance, where he started off horrible. Just the worst. No armor save. He had one melee attack that was 1 inch. I think it was either 5s and 5s or 5s and 6s. And he had a +1 rend.
There's a new mechanic.
Let me tickle you, yeah.
So he got what was also called Frightened Swipe. So
oh, well, okay.
So you got 1 experience every round you didn't take damage. Which is great in the beginning because I'll just keep him in the back lines, and then he had an ability to incorporate himself into a unit. So unless you had a character that could specifically target, like the Stardrake, you just couldn't touch him. But the problem is later, whenever he gets good, in order to keep improving him, you have to choose: do I get in there and fight, or do I hold him back further? Because by the end, he's slinging like 3 spells. He has a 24-inch shot that's like Rend 2 D6 damage. Like, he's nuts. But again, it's because you literally spent 2 days of just babying this guy. You get a day of fun.
It's like you sit back there and eat your rare candies, all right? You know?
Exactly. That's exactly it. So that's one thing that you can do for like events. Like if you want to have a couple buddies over and play a couple, like 3 games in a day, you can do something like that. No,
I mean you could even take it if you're just doing like with local friends. You could just pick any hero from any army and just say like, okay, I'm going to use this war scroll and this will be my custom priest, even though I'm playing Stormcast, but it's a Core Knight priest, and just the keywords and just have fun and then create a narrative from that.
Yeah, it's definitely, the whole point of it is to have fun with it. And if you're like, oh, my army's going to do really well if I bring in this hero from this other army, you're not doing it right. If you see something like the Lord of Plagues or the on foot hero Berserker from Fire Slayers, where they just pile in and attack and attack and attack. If you think that's fun, bring it over. Make it your own model, or do whatever you want, as long as everyone else is okay with it. Obviously, for the narrative event, don't show up.
I mean, if you show up with Vandus Hammerhand to an narrative event, I'm gonna be like, I'm bored, man. That's boring. Get that out of here. No.
So but now whenever it comes to adding narrative to my armies, I haven't necessarily found like a formula. There's nothing I really like follow a chain of. It's not like, oh, I have to do this or have to do that. If I try and force narrative, it always turns out sour grapes. Like, it's just not good, and you can tell. But it's okay to let things develop. So like whenever I was painting my Iron Jaws, I got a little bored of painting brute after brute after brute, and so there was one where I didn't have any design on his shoulder pad or anything like that. So he's the only one that has a stripe painted straight down the whole, just the middle of the plate. And so since then I've named him Ace, and I've determined that he brags to all the other brutes that he's the only one that earned a stripe, even though the story is he just painted it on himself.
He earned it. He put it on.
Yeah, he put it on himself, and he just said he earned it. Now everyone else hates him. So, but then there's my Duarden armies, where I'm literally working on a story where I have the Dispossessed from a cities list, I have Fire Slayers, and I have KO working together to restart the Duarden kingdoms.
I think it's kind of a good thing you bring up both of those types of narrative, because narrative can be silly and just comical. I mean, look at the history of Warhammer. Like, there's a lot of comic nature within it that it's perfectly acceptable. Or you can take it to a very serious route, or blend the two and go back and forth between it with the same narrative. There's no reason why you can't. It's very, like I said, Age of Sigmar just makes it so open and so easy. Like, I love that narrative about he put the stripe on and says, "I earned this. I deserve this. I'm a good person."
Yeah. Me the Ace here. You all lot suck.
Now, if you could do that voice for the whole event, man, that's every sports award right there.
I almost did. And that is the event that I got the sports award. So I don't know if it's connected or not. But yeah, that's so Neil, have you ever actually run or done anything for actual narrative events?
I've never run a pure narrative event. It's just something that's kind of been out of my comfort zone a little bit, and just coming from my start in Warhammer, which was, purely points based kind of thing when I was a kid, and just on and on. I never even really thought about Warhammer as like a narrative thing until Age of Sigmar, really, and so
in all honesty, I think that's most people too.
Yeah. You go back far enough, I've got people in the club who'll talk to me about, second and third edition Warhammer, where, pretty much it was open season. That's what it was. It was all narrative, right? And then it got, a little bit more serious with the points there and everything into the other editions. But the first narrative event I ever did was Coalescence that Chuck threw. And I've enjoyed every single Coalescence event I've been to. It's been a lot of fun. So,
yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like, back in 8th edition, like, I had a named character, but he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't motivating the army. He was just part of the army and following whatever had to happen. I personally felt restricted because I liked using Alariel, Tyrion, Teclis, Corhill, like all the High Elves, leaders. That he was just a High Elf Lord on horse with dragon armor. It's as far as I took it. And I don't know, but see, I feel like it's restrictive, but it could just be, maybe that's just my immature level of narrative within wargaming, because I was still a new wargamer at the time. So I'm curious, to maybe talk to some people that have been into narratives that much longer, because I was also pretty competitive in 8th too, like locally. Like, I didn't really go to any events, but I liked crushing face and clubbing baby seals.
Well, so that kind of brings up a question for me here. Who do you think there's a specific type of player that narrative is suited for?
See, I think narrative is suited for everybody, and I think because it's a spectrum that you can be as light as you want to be, to just have that named hero, like I used to do in 8th, or to fully theme an army and write stories for it, like all the stuff that I do for my Daughters of Cain, like I think you can go to whatever level you want. I just think Age of Sigmar really opens it up the world enough that you can go so big that there's almost you can almost can't go too big. Like there's a limit. Like you don't ever want to be more powerful than the gods, but most armies have I guess to use my Daughters of Cain as an example, I'm never gonna have my custom character Teyrathi be more powerful than Morathi. But at the same time, if you look at Stormcast, you could have a character who's more powerful than Bandus Hammerhand because you're all Stormcast. Like it makes sense narratively, but you won't be more powerful than say the Celestin Prime in the lore. Now, on the table, probably will be, but
well, listen. I mean, as far as that goes, my my Warden King for my cities list, he's so powerful in my story that that Sigmar himself just carries around his mead for him, and that's why we didn't get a chamber this year. That's
well, I mean, you can absolutely do that, I guess, if that's what makes you happy and that's what floats your boat, and do it. I guess, like I said, it depends on where you want to be. Like, do you want to ground this in the world, like so you can tell somebody what your narrative is and they find it believable in the context of what they understand, or do you just want to go crazy like that and Sigmar's your barmaid and it shines your shoes and Nagash holds your coat whenever you enter the door.
I'm gonna write that in. And just for clarification, that's not. I just came up with that on the fly. That's not a.
It's not signed, sealed, and approved.
But yeah, I mean, I guess to talk about how I do narrative, I really go all in. But like I said, I'm also a believer that you can play in competitive events and have a narrative for your army. I mean, especially with this is very specific Age of Sigmar, where the books play to their army lore and style, almost always. I can't think of one off the top of my head that really doesn't. That they're one of their strongest ways to play wouldn't match what their theme is. So I think creating a narrative inside of a competitive event is perfectly fine. So whenever I go to Adepticon, Ren 4 or anything, I'm going to have a narrative attached to my army. I'm going to write a lore piece. And it's always going to be centered around my custom character, Teyrathi, because that's how I like to bring my story to life, is through a single character, so I can give a point of view and reference from there. And like I said, she is powerful. She commands a whole army. I mean, that's real power. Like I said, she's never going to be more powerful than Morathi. She may think she is. I mean, delusions of grandeur are a great thing to put into your character, but yeah, I can't say it enough. I just think you can do narrative in any type of game, at any type of event. Just maybe you won't be telling the story round by round. It may just be you take highlights from your game, like, oh, I killed this with this character, or this died, so I'm going to write narrative that reflects that at, say, a major event like Adepticon or Nova, as opposed to going to a Holy Havoc where every single round you're going to have something to add to your story, because that's what you're doing. The purpose of a narrative event is to tell a story. Yeah. But I think you can still get a story out of a competitive event with your army.
You guys need to see Aaron Bostian at one of the Ren 4 events. I bumped into him on the tables, and he was doing exactly that. Like, he set aside 5 minutes, in the tournament just to tell me exactly, what his character had done so far in the tournament and where he envisions him in his story. It was a quick 5 minutes, and then you're into the game and you're playing the game, and then his narrative is his own, and, you're playing on the other side of the table, and, you just go for it. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool in a match play type environment to have that.
Aaron definitely bleeds narrative. That's
yeah. It's a good thing. So like I said, I think a lot of people think that narrative and match play are just different camps, and maybe they are for the majority of folks out there, but I know there's plenty of people like me that want to do both. And then, here's a little spoiler for the Nova Open GT this year, which tickets go on sale for all Nova events March 1st, so mark your calendars. But at the GT, I am shifting it to be more competitive focused, because that's what the players want, and I want to give them that event. But I also added a narrative award this year. There's no reason why someone can't win a narrative award at a major GT, it could be the top player. Like some of the top players at Nova last year had really crazy themed armies. If if there's a narrative to it and it strikes us, and it's going to be voted probably by us three. Let's be honest. Like, so it's like there's just room for narrative. I think more so in every style of play, but you can absolutely have it be your focus and your heart and soul too. So
I think there's a lot of misconceptions too out there, from people on the far side, on the extreme sides of both. I got my friend Dave who shies away now from some of the match play, and he enjoys more of the narrative. Some of the competitive stuff, I know he thinks it just gets a little bit too competitive, and I'm trying to bring him back into that. I'm like, it's not all that. There are other people there that are in that same camp. They don't want to play in a match play environment because they think it's all this quote unquote win at all costs stuff going on. It's not going to be a fun time. People are just going to smash me off the table. And I've played Bill Zuza. I played some good players. I played Tom from Warhammer Weekly. I've not had a bad game with any of those guys. In fact, I've had some of my best games with those guys. Even while being smashed off the table. So and then on the other side, if you're a pure match play guy, don't shy away from the narrative too, because I find it hard to believe that you can get into this hobby and enjoy this hobby if you don't find some kind of joy in the lore of the armies, or even just what the models look like. There's some component. I don't care how hardcore match play you are. I feel like there is something in you that enjoys the whole lore side of it. So, do an event, here or there. Find something that's narrative. Play it. You may find that you enjoy it.
But I think the thing is like you mentioned Bill Souza. I've played him a number of times, and he knows I love narrative, and I'll put narrative into my armies and my story. It's never gotten in the way of us playing a competitive game. Like even at the worst case, if it's just my narrative's in my head and I'm not going to talk about it for this game because we're just to try and focus, and we're helping each other practice for a GT, doesn't mean my story is not going on. It's just it might just be for me for that game because that's the focus.
And also on the other side, just for people who want to just kind of tinker with narrative, just because you're doing that game doesn't mean your narrative has to be on. Whenever it comes to narrative in that aspect, it's for you. If you don't want to do narrative for a match, or you don't want to incorporate something, don't. If you do it. It's definitely one of those things where, like I said, for me personally, if I try and force it, it doesn't turn out that good.
Well, it's also, keep in mind too, know what type of game you're going to have with your opponent. Like if you're going to a 1 day, 3 game event, just because you have a narrative doesn't mean it's a narrative event. You may have a narrative ongoing in your head, but people are going to bring tough lists, as opposed to hey Matt, I want to have a narrative game where Terathi seeks revenge against Matney, your custom warlord from Holy Havoc, for the betrayal, even though I betrayed you. But we're gonna have a narrative
Sky
event.
Baron
Matney.
Matney.
Sky Baron. Sorry. But you do have to understand what type of game you're going into. Right. So both parties. That's a social contract, but there's no reason why you still can't. While you're playing that competitive game and you have your notebook open, you're tracking what's going on turn by turn, that you can't just add in a piece of cool thing that happened to incorporate to your narrative later.
Yeah. Well, so to kind of shift over to the actual narrative games and narrative events, Neil brought up Coalescence, which at this point is a little bit of an older event. So Chuck, since you ran Coalescence, do you want to kind of go over what that was and how you ran it?
Yeah. So it was done by the Neo guys, the narrative event organizer guys, or We Are the Neon. I think they actually have a podcast now. But essentially what it was a global narrative event. So over the course of a single day, all across the world, would be the same event being played out. And it was narrative focused missions. There's a ongoing story. I can't remember if there was champions, Matt. I think there was. I can't recall.
Not,
was there?
I don't
maybe
think,
for one of them.
I don't think there was for the first one.
But regardless, but then you would play in one of the 4 Grand Alliances, or sometimes the teams were 2. Sometimes it was teams of 4 groups or 2 groups would battle it out, and you'd report the findings, and then that would create an ongoing story that happened across the world into the next event. And this went on for a couple of years, and it was great initiative. I mean, that's like Neil, you came out, Matt was out too. I'm kind of bummed I never actually got to play in them. I just got to run them and hand out trophies, but everyone brought narrative focus. It was a great time.
Yeah, that was the first time I ran my combined Fyreslayers, KO, and Dispossessed, which was the first game I had against Neil's Khorne.
How'd that go?
I think I managed to win.
I think I got you in that one. I think.
Oh, you're right. So that was one of the ones. That's why it was such a good match, because it came down to the last round, and it was like 1 or 2 rolls determined which way it went. Because it was
good.
That was back whenever Hearthguard were supposed to be taking in blocks, and I took 10.
Yeah,
nice.
I think your girlfriend avenged you later on and took me down that third game.
About right.
Oh yeah,
Well,
but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so how did you run that in comparison to, say, like whenever you're doing a competitive day at the
So if I was doing the competitive events at Nova, let's say, I'm going to pre-select the missions. I'm going to pre-select the realms. I'm going to pre-select the realm feature. So it's going to have a impact on the game, but not a drastic swinging impact that's going to favor one army over the other. Like I'm not going to put Relocation Orb into my packs because for a competitive event, because it's probably the least competitive one. It's a fun one. I love Relocation Orb, but to me, I'm not going to put it because it could swing too easily. The newest current one is much better for it, but still, it's like there's plenty of other options I think out there that really let someone play to their skill.
Yeah.
Whereas at Coalescence, Coalescence, I put all the tables together, and like halfway through the first game, like round 2 or 3, people were on. I was like, hey, by the way, you guys can go across all these tables, and I think Neil, you said like, can I jump through this realm gate here and go to this one over here, like on the other end? I was like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Like, Alex was not too happy about that when I showed up behind all his forces.
He killed him and left. But it's if I'm running a competitive event, I want people's skill to shine, I guess, as the focus for each game. Whereas a narrative, I want everyone to walk away with stories. I want, I don't want them to talk about, it's like, oh, these rules were clutch and doing this whenever we're having beers after a narrative event. I want them to talk about like how, Matney shot Terathi across 2 boards away because I used this ability and she managed to live, but I'll get her next time. You're still talking the same thing, like as I guess you would, just like in a different context, different way.
Yeah. So I know one thing that I ran, I think it was for 2 years, again, originally inspired by Aaron, was he'd like to do a narrative event every, or at least as close as possible to November 5th. And he had essentially like the ongoing escapades of the wizard Guy Fawkes. And so I liked the idea a lot. I didn't run his pack. I had too many of my own ideas just flying that I had to go with. And
this is where the champions came from. Didn't you like test bed them with us?
The last time we played, yeah, they were in there because I had them, so I never got to use them. So, and so like, whenever I was working on that, I wanted to make it as different as possible, but I still wanted to try and make it somewhat even, because again, like you were there, Chuck, and our friend Dave, Morgan were there, and our friend Alex, and Morgan has played.
Morgan's your girlfriend, and you
Yes.
tend to favor her in all these games and screw Chuck over pretty badly.
Well, it's not my fault. You go easy on her, and then you're surprised when it comes back to get you. That's well, especially considering Dave won the first time, and that was the first 3 games David ever played.
Yeah. Probably because I was attacking Morgan, and she's like, "Oh no, you're not," and Dave's just running around like, "Oh, look, all these objectives while we kill each other."
So what I like to do is, for these events, for the ones that I've played, is I either like the forces to build up or build down, and to really get some difference in there, to try and give you an experience that you can't experience at a competitive event. You know, like the first year we started skirmish, and then we went over to Path of Glory into 1,000-point army. And then I think the year after that, we still started off with skirmish. I kind of like those scouting missions, you know. And then it was a 2,000-point army, then down to teams of 2 1,000-point armies. And one of the things that I tried to veer away from was winners and losers. It was whoever had the most of one thing determined their starting position in the next game, and whoever had the least in that category in the next game got to do something and then maybe have an advantage over that player or another player. So that way, even if you lost, you weren't at a disadvantage. It just gave you a different experience. And then the first year, which I think was a very loosely related on Triumph and Treachery. I had bought this bag of gold plastic coins off of Amazon.
Yeah, we turned it into Mario Kart.
And I literally put them all over the board. If you walked through them, you picked them up. If you stopped within, I think it was like 3 or 6 inches, you picked them up. Or no, it was 3 inches for units, 6 inches for heroes. And what that did was I had the guy, the wizard Guy Fawkes, offered his services, and you could buy spell scrolls to affect. You know, sometimes it was a unit, sometimes it was the whole table. Like there was one that was everything's on fire. For it was like 3 coins, you do D3 mortal wounds to a unit. For 10 coins, you do it to an entire player's army. And then for 7 coins, you do it to everything on the board, including your own stuff.
And what I like about that, like with Triumph and Treachery and that you brought in, as soon as you did that, it gave currency not to just between the players and you, but between the players themselves.
Right.
So all of a sudden, it's like, hey, can I get a free battle shock here? It's like, well, if you pay me, I won't scare you as badly. It's like, okay, sure, here you go. And like, or fun stuff like that, or just wheeling and dealing. Like, hey, don't attack me. I'll give you these 2 coins you need to light him on fire.
Well, that was the other thing is, whenever the coins were involved, that added a new gameplay element between rounds. Because after I introduced coins is whenever we had our lunch break. And I made sure that we had lunch in front of our models to keep it in everyone's mind. I still remember in the final round, I had 1 war scroll, so I was very bitter about KO at this point because I'd gone all in and was not pleased with the boats.
And
so
this was after all the nerfs too. So
this was they were in the ground. I made a spell scroll called the SS Failboat, and essentially what it is you paid 10 coins to give one of your opponents access to the frigate war scroll, and it put a frigate on your team. Now, essentially what happened was you got full access to the frigate, but if the frigate was still up and running at the end of the game, you lost, I forget how many victory points. And
there's enough that it mattered.
Right. I think it was like D3, but But the real problem is all the Duardin wanted paid for their services and took D6 coins away. So Chuck was like, Chuck was still like, no, you just got to learn how to use it. It's really good. And so he gave our friend Dave X number of coins and said, you can have the extra if you cast this war scroll or this spell on me. So he got the boat.
Yep.
And like no one cared. It just, it sputtered around. It like did a damage here, did a damage there.
Actually, more or less, it got in my own way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this base is big.
But it was. I mean, it was hilarious, and everyone had a good time because of the flavor of the spell. Yeah. So no, I would say both were very successful events, though.
Absolutely, and I do like how you mentioned the changing of the size. Actually, Realms at War does that, where you start small and grow over time as you grow in power, and it's fun because you get a lot more games in that way.
Yeah.
And also, like, you can play with the points. Like, they're not, for Realms at War specifically, it's not 500, 1,000, 1,500. It's, here's 250, 300, or here's 450, or here's something weird, just to make you go, this doesn't quite work well. Because a lot of lists you can build at 500,000 or 2,000 pretty well. Like 500-point increments are pretty easy to do. But you take off like 50, 75 points, all of a sudden it's, what can I squeeze in here? It makes it a little bit more interesting to force you to build with a story in mind for a narrative event.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so there's tons of ways, like whether like you're like me and do a specific hero to lead your army and then let the narrative flow off that, or if you're doing tables like you do, Neil, or army wide with your boats, which I can't wait to see. Did you choose which one is named after Terathi?
I haven't yet because I still got about 5 more to get. So
all right,
I don't know.
Right.
It might be the frigate. No, it's got to be one that I don't know. We'll figure it out. Might be
just look to see if there's one on there, one on her knees. That's
it. Might be the frigate just because of how you used it in that.
Failboat returns.
That's right.
Yeah, but or if you create custom heroes like Matt. Like Matt, I think you spend a lot more time helping other people create narrative events than you do actually playing in narrative.
Well, so again, like that's one of the reasons why I like narrative, because I always have just like these weird mechanics that have nowhere to go and have no home. So narrative is a great way to get them out. Yeah. I mean, again, even for Nova Open this past, not Nova Open, the Las Vegas Open this past year, Bill reached out to me and was like, hey, well, Aaron and Bill reached out to me like, hey, we just want something simple.
Bill who? Do your name drop. Bill of the Rolling Bad podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, Bill.
That's it. We've named multiple Bills in this episode. Let's
sorry, Bill.
Context.
Yeah, Bill from the Rolling Bad podcast, which absolutely check out. He asked me, he's like, hey, I don't want anything complex. I just want something simple. Just a handful. And even there, I was like, okay, I guess I could do like just default back to like original D&D, where it's like, okay, you got your warrior, fighter, and rogue or whatever. And even there, I was like, no, that's too simple. I can't get away with that. So I think I only came up with 4 guys. I think that's all Bill wanted. And so every hero started off with a universal ability, and then at the beginning of the game, or the beginning of the event, you choose between 2 other abilities that flavored the hero. So like, I was a little disappointed that I wasn't able to continue the theme with everything, with all of them. But for the hero, they got one ability that let them do the pile-in and attack when combat's done, and that was called the Never-Ending Battle. And then there was the one where they gave him a save after the save and helped him prevent mortals, and that was called The Battle Never Ends.
Yeah. But I think, it definitely worked. Like I heard good things from the latest Rolling Bad podcast that people liked the champions. He gave you glowing reviews, so I
Way
think
too
that's
much. Way
great.
too much. I literally
Uh,
I pumped those out in like 4 hours.
I guess before we wrap up and plug our stuff and get out of here, there is one thing I didn't mention. A good way to do narrative: dressing as your character.
No, that's a terrible way to do it.
What?
No, because the
Oh,
beard
man.
smells terrible. That's
Yeah, but you know what? I rock heels, so I'll take that.
still taste the mildew.
Yeah, but actually, in all seriousness, like you can do like fun little things. Like you don't have to do a full outfit. You don't have to wear a dress for 8 hours to win an award at Raw. Even though I highly recommend it because that way you can claim to have the best Marathi cosplay in the world because it's the only one that actually has an award. But you can do fun stuff. Like you could make a hat. You could like do like even just a shirt with like it looks like the armor's on it. Like have fun. Like feel free to embrace it as much as you want and feel comfortable with. But I guess Matt, for this topic, any closing thoughts?
Just, I mean, if the idea doesn't fully repulse you, just give it a shot. You and your friends can just come up with something, give it a try. Worst case scenario, you have fun in the afternoon with some buddies.
Yeah, Neil, what about yourself? Any closing thoughts?
I just echo what Matt said there. Don't be afraid to try narrative if you haven't. It's a good time, a good place to start too. If you just want to kind of dip your toe in, is some of the supplements they've got out there, like Malign Portents, Forbidden Power. Those offer a little bit of narrative to them as well in some of those scenarios. Even those old scenarios out of the Realm Gate Wars books, those old books from going back.
Actually,
those are some great scenarios in there.
Every scenario inside of every battle tome.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, that's a great place to start.
I guess for myself, I'll say it a little bit more confidently than you guys. If you don't do narrative in any way, you're a coward.
You failed a battle shock test.
It's like if you won a 200 person Age of Sigmar event, but you don't have a story for at least one of your models, then get out. No, I'm kidding.
Who are you exactly talking about?
I don't know. I'm just throwing big numbers out there. No, like don't be. Narrative will never ruin an experience. It'll only enhance it, and it can be used in a way that won't get in the way of any type of game you want to play. So I highly recommend it. Create a character, come fight Terathi. I'll put you in your place. I'm always up for a narrative game as well as a competitive game in the same game. So, but yeah, let's wrap it up. That's a narrative podcast, guys.
All right.
I guess let's thank our sponsor, Sean from Brush for Hire, who still hasn't paid us yet. I mean, he's raking in all that commission money, refuses to jump on our show, even though he gets invited. And I don't know why we keep him around, but
he's
signed that contract. It's that contract. I signed without reading.
Needless to be fair, though, he's paying me a little bit. He sent me a picture of
what kind of back end deal is this?
Well, listen, I like back end deals. I cannot lie. But yeah, he's actually. I took advantage of the Hero Forge deal for Black Friday, and he started printing them up for me.
Ooh, nice.
So yeah, that's his sponsorship. Well paid. Brush for Hire. Don't paint your own models like an idiot. Brush for Hire.
Twitch.tv/Brush for Hire. But yeah, if you're listening to this on YouTube while we're into this mode, be sure to subscribe, click that like button, leave a comment, and smash that bell. Ring that bell. Smash the like button.
Brush for Hire.
Guys. No, the YouTube channel, not Sean's done.
Only idiots paint their own models. Brush for Hire.
Neil, where can people find you on social media?
People can find me on Twitter at Neil LaRocca. That's NeilLarocca. And they can find me on Facebook at Ren4. Just type that in. You should be able to find the group page. And as long as you're positive and you're willing to play our ball game, you will be accepted. So,
Renfor, play with Neil's balls.
Renfor, all right.
Matt, where
Get
can
the
people
map
find
campaign.
you?
Kill Matt.
Yeah. Yes. And end it.
You can find me on the Brush for Hire Twitch. No, that's well. You can at me on the Twitter sphere at LAZENCANTM, Lazenka NTM. You can always remember that by that's Matt.
Yeah. As for me, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at strengthhammer_, or my blog at strengthhammer.net, or this YouTube channel, which I'm not going to give you a name of because it's pretty obvious at this point. And if you're listening to this, you're already there. So you better have subscribed, smash that like button, and ring that bell. Am I doing it right, Matt?
Close.
Is this right?
You need to come up with a catchphrase like "Brush for Hire."
Well,
painting
how about
stuff for you. Da, 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 da. Brush for Hire.
I don't have a jingle, but to everyone out there, stay Stormcast strong and happy hobbying.